talking about mentoring today, going for the gold. And we just came back from the Philippines. The Philippines has 7,000 some islands. You'd have to ask Pastor Chris, he has the exact number. And the islands in the Philippines are actually obviously the tops of mountains that are under the ocean, right? Wouldn't that be true? And they come up and protrude out of the water. And those mountains are volcanic. They're made by volcanoes over the years. And so the mountains in the Philippines, the islands in the Philippines are riddled with gold and precious minerals. And so a lot of people go there to go gold digging, hunting for gold. There's a lot of gold mining in the Philippines. And there's a thing called gold fever that gets on your life. And it's a gold rush fever where you just panic, you'll do anything to get to that gold. And we know people who have, particularly a friend of ours, a pastor's wife in Canada, her dad abandoned their family years ago to go to the Philippines because he was going to discover gold and come home rich. Never did come home. I think he's still there, living like a bum. And it's really sad, but that gets a hold of people, that kind of a gold rush thing. And so people will abandon their careers, their families, and they'll go gold hunting. And, you know, why would you do it? Because you could be the lucky person, right? If you find something that people want, like gold, you become rich, right? If you find something that people want, you become rich. I grew up in an area of Canada right beside a gold rush river. And it was like 1864 when the first guy walked through that area and he found gold laying on the ground. And so people rushed from the California gold rush up into Canada, and they crossed the Kootenay River, which is where I grew up, right by that river. And they crossed the river. You could walk across the river. It was shallow in the fall time. And they began to mine for gold and build houses. And they built a town called Fisherville. And it was the first town in the area, and it was huge. It became quite big. Thousands of people lived there in Fisherville. And one guy that lived there in Fisherville, he was digging a hole in his yard one day. Maybe he was going to put an outhouse up or something, I don't know. And he found a gold nugget. They say it was as big as his fist. I don't know. Actually, the biggest gold nugget found in that gold rush was 36 ounces. That's worth 20 million baht. How'd you like pick that up, eh? I see a little gold fever here coming up in the eyes. It does, it gets a hold of you, and you want to go out there with your pan and start, getting gold. And so this guy, he dismantled his house, took his house down and moved it all so that he could dig, and he dug and he found more gold. Well, when the neighbors found out that he found gold under his house, they wanted to dig under their houses too. But because they had gold fever and they couldn't wait, they just burned their houses. And they burned the entire town to the ground. All the government buildings, hotels, schools, everything, burned it right to the ground because they were in such a rush to find the gold that might be under their houses. And then the next town that was built up was Fort Steele, which was our hometown. And so this gold fever, it'll drive people to do some crazy things. Of course, the old miners around there, they say that the mother lode is still up Wild Horse Creek. If anybody's interested, nobody's found it yet. So when people came, the miners came, they crossed the river, as I said, in the low water. And then next spring, when they had lots of gold, they had to leave, and they couldn't leave because the water was too high on the river. So one of the miners, he built a ferry. His name was Galbraith, and some of us that have been there know the story. And Galbraith, it began to be called Galbraith's Crossing, where he built this ferry where he would take you across the river. $5 for a person and $10 for a horse or a mule. And that guy, because there was thousands and thousands of gold miners taking their gold back out to California, he made millions of dollars. He made more money than all the other miners put together because he had something that they needed. When you have something that someone else needs, you become very rich. Wouldn't that be true? When you have something that someone else needs, you become very rich. We just got home from a gold excursion, gold digging excursion in the Philippines. Amen. Did you enjoy that? Right? We were digging for gold. And the question that people should ask is, why would you do that? Right? Why would you pack up the entire Bible college, your ministry staff, and go to the Philippines? People from all over Asia came there at great cost. It was not convenient for us, was it? I mean, we're in the middle of getting this room ready. Guys had to get it ready on the weekend before Monday so we could study here. The air conditioners went in, the windows in the nick of time, right? It's not convenient. It's never convenient to go gold digging, but the opportunity to discover gold is worth the sacrifice. So we go to the Philippines because we are looking at digging gold out of lives. Mentoring. It's part of our mentoring process at VABC. We take you where we go, and you do what we do, right? As part of the mentoring process. And I want to talk about mentoring today. We're going to go into our mentorship groups and so on this week. And I'm talking to our leaders because every one of us is a mentor, like it or not. That's what God has called us to do. We do like it, by the way. So it's a great thing because in mentoring, you can help people discover the thing in their lives that other people need. Okay? When you have something that other people need, you become rich. If you have destiny and purpose in your life, you become rich in influence, right? Rich in fruitfulness, rich in all kinds of areas. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about mentoring. We're talking about digging the gold out of people's lives. In the Continuum magazine, issue number 16, page 15, there's an article on mentoring by Becky, and it says, we're mentoring the biblical model, not your typical once a week, sit down for coffee and tell me how your life is going mentorship, but an intense process that reaches into the core of a person and discovers gold. Transformational mentorship turns the fearful into the brave and the self-centered into beginning to live for others. Okay, we're going for the gold. We're looking for gold in our lives because there's something on the inside of you that other people need. It's all about destiny. I want to talk to you about how to mentor. And mentoring basically is sharing your life with someone else. That's really what it's about, is sharing your life as a model, basically. And you think about different models, and some people are great teachers, some people are great bosses. But like Paul said, you don't have many fathers. You have a lot of teachers, but you don't have many fathers. Fathers are hard to come by. Mentoring is fathering or mothering, okay? And so mentoring means to be committed to people like there's value in their lives. The fact is that mentoring is built on love, on the love of, the love that God puts in our hearts for other people. Built on love. You can't mentor without love. All right? If the only way that a father can be a father is to be with the family, right? You ever see one of those movies where the father's never home? The problem is he's not fathering. All right? To be a mentor, we have to be with people. We've got to spend time with the people that we mentor. And so it's always a good question to ask ourselves, am I acting like a teacher? Am I acting like a boss? Or am I acting like a mentor? Teaching means I'm just trying to tell you something I know. Bossing means I'm just trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do. Mentoring means that I'm investing myself in you and bringing out the gold, bringing out that thing that when others discover it in your life, you become very valuable. So what's required to mentor? Okay? Mentoring basically means to tell me why and to show me how. Okay? Mentoring means to tell me why and show me how. When Moses was coming up out of Israel with all those people, and Jethro told him, he says, in Exodus 18, right, he said, Moses, you need to show them the work that they must do and teach them the laws and the ordinances. Okay? Those two things. You got to teach them, right? The laws and the ordinances. Tell me why we got to do this. Show me why we got to do this. And then show me how. One of the significant ways to discern if you're mentoring or not is if you're telling people what to do, you're not mentoring. But if you're telling them how to do it, you're mentoring. Okay? And that was always one of my frustrations as a young man. Lots of people are willing to tell you what to do. Well, tell me how. It's easy to tell somebody what to do, right? We're telling people what to do. People are telling you what to do. I mean, I got emails coming through all the time telling me what to do. It's not even worth opening them. If somebody doesn't have some help, doesn't tell you how, it's purposeless, right? So, tell me why and show me how. Jesus, when he named his 12 apostles, you remember that in Luke chapter 6? It says they came down and into the multitude, and they began to heal the sick and cast out devils. That's the first thing Jesus did. He named his apostles. First thing he did was take them right in there, show them how to do it. And then it says he lifted up his eyes to his disciples and he began to teach them, right? He taught them why we're doing this. And if you can discover the why of your life, the sooner the better you discover the value. That's the gold. That's really the gold, guys, is that why. And I know that it's not easy to discover the why of your life, why it is. So a good mentor, though, will help you, right? It takes intense focus to uncover the why of your life, interrupted focus, undisturbed focus. When you know your why, you know your destiny, you know your purpose. And the mentor teaches, here's why we do what we do. The boss and the manager just tells you, just do it, right? But if you're being mentored, you'll know why. You'll know why. When you know why, you've got a drive, you've got a passion, you've got purpose, right? If you don't know why you're doing it, you're just waiting for 5 o'clock and punch out and go to 7-Eleven. Okay? So really when we're talking about why, we're talking about the culture, right? We have a culture here at VABC in Victory Asia that's very unique. In fact, that's what makes us the best Bible college in the world, is that we have a culture that nobody else has. Yeah, well, they have a culture too. Yeah, good for them. We know our why. We know why we're doing this, right? We know why we're here. We know what we're sacrificing for. We know the reason behind all of the things that we've, had to do to get here and to be here and to sit here and those lumpy old chairs you're sitting on and all that kind of stuff. We know why we're doing this. We got a purpose, right? To reach, teach, and mobilize. And that's our lives. Okay, so you got to tell me why. You got to show me how. But I wanted really this morning to talk about the enemies of mentorship, because I think we'll understand more by understanding what the enemies of mentorship are. What is it that stops mentorship? Understand, right? Mentorship is hard to find. It really is. You got a guy like David. Do you remember David? Who was his mentor? Seriously? What did he learn from Saul? What not to do. That was about it. And it helped him develop his skills, his escaping skills, his living in cave skills. It helped him develop all that. That's about what he got from Saul. And he had Samuel. Samuel was a good mentor. He was a great guy. But, no, not that one. But he's a good mentor too. Okay? So I want to talk about some of the enemies of mentorship. And the first one is wrong motivation. As a leader, if you're self-centered, if you aren't committed to love people, you'll never mentor them. If it's all about you, forget mentoring. It's just not there. You can say you're a mentor, but you're not. You can think you're mentoring, but you're not. Tell people you're mentoring, but you're not. You're just self-centered. And a lot of times, that's what we find. We find people that we expected to train us and to teach us were self-centered. Some of you had fathers like that. Self-centered. They did not become a good role model. I mean, it happens, right? Some of us have pastors like that. Some of us grew up under people like Saul, whatever. The second thing is false expectations. A mentor that requires something from you that they won't do themselves or that they can't do themselves is not mentoring. See, false expectations basically is somebody who wants to be served. Hey, I see, I could get a bunch of young people around me and they could serve me, right? They could make my tea and carry my stuff and all that kind of thing, right? That's a false expectation, and you have people like that. We've had people come to VABC and really find freedom because they grew up under leadership like that the only thing that they were there for was to serve the leaders. And the leaders were not mentoring them. And then they get here and they see, you know what, we work together. It's a different culture. It really sets them free, gives them tremendous hope. If you've been under that, a mentor, supposed mentor that puts false expectations on you, it's very difficult. Okay, and the next one is one of my favorites, and that's a hidden life. A mentor that won't let you see into their life is not a mentor at all. Okay? A mentor that lies to you about how they live is not a mentor at all. Okay? If they conceal their shortcomings, they think that you're not mature to handle certain things, they're not really mentoring. If they hide their business from you, right? It's like a father hidden from his children and he's not fathering. Okay? I want to see your house. Right? The reason that we took it to Pastor Rich's house for that one morning, I wanted you to see his house. Did you want to see his house? I mean, to me, that's one of the most, I want to see how you live, man. You know, you see a leader of a great ministry, I want to see how he lives. I don't care how he lives. I'm not going to judge him for it, but I want to see. Because you can tell so much by going to a person's house. It's like Pastor Rich, he bought that house. It was defaulted at the bank. It had no windows, no doors. It was just plain concrete. It had no tile, nothing in it. So you got to be pretty proud of Pastor Rich for getting everything done one at a time, right? That's pretty amazing because he's not really like a builder type guy. You know, he's different than me, and so he's been able to do it, and it develops character. I want to see that a leader lives a life that develops his character. So I want to know where you live, and I want to look in your closet. Huh? So that's why I think, when Tyler does room check, you should do his too. I think I touched on something there. You can tell a lot by how someone's room is. Right? Who was it? Oh, Nat. Yeah, I sent him into my bedroom yesterday, and he's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I want you to go right through there and into that back room and find this thing for me." And I know what he's going to see in there. He's going to see my basket full of dirty socks and underwear. But you know what? As mentors, if we live a hidden life, you can't mentor people. As a father, if you lived a hidden life, you couldn't be a father. Okay? I want you to teach me about finances. I want to know how to buy a car. I want to know how to buy a house, or should I buy a house? I want to know the truth about your marriage and your private life. Don't we? Don't you want to know those things? Man, I want to know those things. I want to know how my leaders are getting along with their spouses. Like, that's pretty important. And because we're looking for people that we can model our lives, and we can look for people that we can learn certain keys from that'll be useful in our lives, in our own marriages. Okay, then another thing is a double standard. And as a mentor, you cannot hold yourself to one standard and the people you're mentoring to another standard. They'll see through it, and you won't get gold. This is one of the most frustrating things in my life, honestly, about the people that mentored me or partially mentored me or whatever. I remember years ago when I first got born again, I was driving my hot rod 1928 Dodge. And I mean, that car is going to be 100 years old pretty soon. And it's a cute car, right? I mean, you know, I bought it for $300 and when I was 18 years old, and I kept fixing it. And when I got born again, the pastor told me I needed to get rid of it because it's just a diversion. You got to focus on Jesus, right? Don't focus on things like that. And I'm like, get rid of my guitar too? Yes. Get rid of everything. Just focus on Jesus. Well, thank God for a guy that came by, a preacher from South Africa. His name is Robert Tom, and he wrote a book called The New Wine is Better. I didn't know him. He just showed up there at our church and he was preaching. And never met him before or after the service or anything. But I was really struggling with this whole thing about my 1928 Dodge. Like, seriously, God, I don't want to get rid of this. I need a car. And to me, this one makes the most sense. I bought it for next to nothing. I can fix it myself. Why would I go buy some junker that's always going to break down? You got to take it to a garage to fix. Like, to me, it just isn't. We're all different, guys. Some people have to buy a new car because they don't want to be bothered with fixing it, right? Now, why would you, you know? Well, maybe Dow does want to learn how to fix it. She told me she does, but she hasn't shown up yet. But you know, for me, that made perfect sense. $300 for a car, you're good to go. And the pastor said, get rid of it. So this Robert Tom, he was up there preaching. He was talking about faith, and he talked about when in 1955, I mean, the guy died, I think, in 1974 or something, 75, a long time ago. And he was talking about living in South Africa and believing God for a 1955 Chev, back in 1955. I love 1955 Chevs, by the way. They're the sweetest car. But he believed God for one as a preacher, and God gave it to him, brand new. And I thought, wow, I'd never heard anything like that before. I'd never heard of a miracle where God gave you something. So here's this preacher preaching that God will give you if you believe, and you know, and the other preacher, our pastor, saying, get rid of everything. It's because it's you know, it's taking your focus. And then Robert Tom, as he's preaching about this 55 Chev, he said something absolutely amazing. He said, I don't care if you want to drive a 1928 Dodge, you go ahead and drive one. And I'm like, whoa. I think I just heard from heaven. It was a word of knowledge, wasn't it? A 1928 Dodge is one of the rarest cars you'll ever find. I bet you have never seen one unless you've seen mine. And I've never seen another one. And so you know, it's like a word from heaven, and that really set me free. And I started thinking, yeah, you know, what's so wrong with that? So when you've got a mentor that tells you, you can't have that, but I can. Huh? No, you shouldn't have that. That's just for me. Right? Watch out. It's a double standard. Right? And it's a hidden life. And I've got one mentor that told me that, you know, he doesn't do anything but serve God. His only thing he does is serve God, and told me that years ago, and taught me, like, that's what you need to do, Al. You just need to serve God. Don't worry about anything else. And then I find out a few years ago that the guy owns like 5 houses and amassed a fair amount of personal wealth. And meanwhile telling me that I shouldn't own anything. And I'm like, really? I don't think I can follow that. Huh? You didn't dig any gold out of me there. All right? So that's a despicable thing when you're going to mentor people. And of course, you guys know how we do it, obviously, around here. I mean, we live here in the Lighthouse, right? Not that you have to mentor people. See, in the West, people don't understand that. Like, why would you live there? Because typically leaders will have a house somewhere else where they live either very wealthily or very poorly or whatever they choose, right? But for us, we just want to be with you guys. We just want to be with the people that we're mentoring, because it's no different than a family. It's no different. You can't be an absentee father and expect to influence your children. You can't be an absentee mentor and expect to dig gold out of people. It just isn't going to happen. All right? So watch out for those things and make sure that people that you're following are living an open and honest life. And they are open about things like their marriage and all those kind of things. Okay? And another one is limiting success. There's leaders who will actually try to limit your success because they're insecure. It's a common problem in churches. Keep the young guys down because they're better than me. Right? That's not mentoring. That's not going to dig gold out of anybody. All right? We want you to do better than ever before. So how do you surpass your mentor? Okay? And what if my talents are different than yours? And what if, is it possible that my level of faith would limit your level of faith? Is it possible that my level of success would limit your level of success? And let me tell you this. When we began the ministry in Thailand for the first number of years, we noticed that the success of the ministry ran parallel to the success of our leaders that our leaders were having in Canada. There's a connection there, right? The people that are leading us have a certain level, and now that we've studied it more and we understand it more, right? That there's certain level of limitations, there's capacities and that kind of thing on people's lives, and that will affect you as a mentee, right? So we found that things ran in parallel. When they were having struggles, we were having struggles. When they were moving ahead, we were moving ahead. And it went like that for years until we grew to the point where that doesn't affect us anymore. You grow to the point. I mean, you think about us in a family, as a son grows to the point where what the father does doesn't affect him anymore. Right? It doesn't have a bearing on let's say it this way, where the father's career success no longer affects the son. Why? Because he's got his own career. He's got his own wages. So if dad's laid off, it doesn't affect me. Right? As leaders, as mentors and mentees, we grow like that to the point where the success of our leaders or lack of success no longer affects us. Okay? You'll move towards that point. Right? You have to do more than those who mentor you. You have to surpass those that lead you. And the only way to do it is to grow past them. You have to be able to grow past where we are. Okay? We'll continue to grow. We're committed to grow. But you have to grow past where I am. Everybody in this room has to grow past where I am. All right? And I have to grow past where my leaders are. And we're determined to do that. We're no longer held back by their limitations. Okay? Different talents, different gifts. Great. Praise God. Amen? Different gold, right? But there it is. Charles de Gaulle is the guy that wrote the Constitution for the French government, which doesn't matter a whole lot. But what he said when he wrote the Constitution, he's talking about the head of state or the prime minister or the president of the country. And he said that the head of state or the leader should embody the spirit of the nation to the nation itself and to the world. What we're looking for in mentoring is that we embody the culture, we embody the purposes, the destiny of the ministry to the people around us and to the world. That's why we do things like this. We want to embody the culture, the vision that God has put on the inside of us to the rest of the world. We won't be able to see it. Why? Because it encourages them. It gives them samples and examples and things that they can aspire to. When I look at what other ministries are doing and other leaders are doing, I get very inspired. You watch and read books and all those kind of things because it's very inspiring. Okay, so it's the spirit of what we're doing around here. We want to exemplify that. All right, so for our leaders, all of our leaders in here, we're going into our mentorship season. I want everybody to know that you're a mentor. Okay? You're not a boss. You're not a teacher. You're a mentor. All right? Can you say amen? Amen. Okay. When we help find and develop what people need in you, you become extremely valuable. Okay? When we help find, discover, and help develop what God has put on the inside of you, you become very, very valuable to others. You begin to grow in your influence and your fruitfulness. Amen.
Amen.